Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Roberta Dunn, and this is the Chief of Police of Charlotte-Mecklenburg, Rodney Monroe, and we're happy to have him here. A little bit on our format and policy of how we're going to run things tonight. I will be the moderator and ask people what questions you want to ask and things like that. The Chief is open to answering any questions. And any questions that we don't get answered today, please agree to get an answer back to me, and I will get it through either through the center or through QNotes or one of the other sources that we have to get the answer out. One of the things that we can't talk about today is any open cases. If there's a case that's still open, because of the sensitivity of the evidence and what's being on, it can't be asked about, it can't be talked about. But very important, if you think of something about a case or someone mentioned something and you say, oh, but I don't want to come out and have it known or whatever else, please contact me to the community center or any of the other places. I'll get the information and I'll pass it on to our gentleman up front and get it to the Chief to get answers. Okay? Chief, would you like to say a few words first?
I'd like to first say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Anytime I have an opportunity to meet with members of the community to talk about concerns, issues, or strategies, how we can go about doing things, making things better, I'm always willing and open to listen. If in fact you have a specific case, we have representatives from the department that we can talk to you one-on-one about. But I'm more interested in hearing about what are some of the concerns, what are some of the issues, and again, across the board. I mean, not necessarily pigeonholing one particular issue, but if you live in a community, if you work in a community, and you have concerns about what may be going on, or how you can get involved, or how you can help to make a difference, that's something that we want to talk about tonight. Very simply, I've been here now just a little over 2.5 years. And coming here, I came with a very simple, simplistic strategy, and that is how do we get policing back to the neighborhood level. All too often in organizations such as CMPD and other law enforcement agencies, as you grow as an agency, you have a tendency of creating specialization throughout the department. Every time you create specialization, you take somebody out of a community in order to create that specialization. I come from a philosophy where you want to put as many resources back into the community. Everything that happens within the community happens in somebody's neighborhood, so therefore that's where our resources needed to be. Not only that, but somebody needs to be responsible for every area within the city 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And with that, we set up a structure that allowed us to have RACs, commanders that are responsible for specific areas in the community. 24 hours a day. Even when they're home sleeping, they're responsible for what goes on in their particular community. And with that, we want to talk about crime and the concerns of the community every week. I mean, we don't want to just wait 2 or 3 months before we look on maps to see what's going on. Every Monday morning, we bring all of our commanders in to talk about what happened over the weekend, what happened the last 7 days, and what they plan on doing the next 7 days. Every 28 days, we're able to look at every response area to see what's going on, what their goals are, whether or not they're meeting their goals, and how we're going to go about accomplishing that. I give the resources to them. It's hard to hold somebody accountable when you don't give them the resources in order to do the job. So I believe in digging out the resources wherever we can find them and put them back in the community and hold certain people responsible for what goes on. With that, we've been able to see some success. But I think that there's so much more that we can do within this community. We're a department of only about 1,750 officers. We're a community of over 700,000. And if we as a community can come together and really pay attention to what's going on in our community and be willing to speak up about some of the concerns and the issues, and more importantly, who are the people that are doing the most harm to us in our community, we can eradicate so much more crime. But if we want to go home and close our windows and close our eyes and close our ears to what's going on, people will come into your community and take advantage of it. They'll take advantage of your homes, they'll take advantage of your property, and ultimately they'll take advantage of you. But if you put up that barrier to say that we as a community are going to come together to shield ourselves from that, that element will dissipate. We cannot empower that element to do harm to us. They know for a fact if they can intimidate you, if they can cause you fear within your community, that they can operate within your community without fear of being apprehended. But if we stand together, if we work together as an organization, as a community, we can just do so much more within the city. And that's what we really strive to occur. Yes, we had a 20% reduction in 2009. Yes, we have a 13% reduction in 2010. But, you know, that's still based on a city that experienced over 50,000 crimes. And that's far too many. It's far too many crimes. It's far too many victims. And with that, we're going to always ask for your help and your assistance in helping to make our community safer. And don't be afraid to talk about what you see and what you think is important to your community. All too often, you know, we're in there 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, but you live in your community. You know what's happening. You know the problems. You know the problem people. You just can't be afraid to partner with us to try to identify those concerns. So with that, I'd like to, have a dialogue to talk about some of your concerns.
I think it's the gas area, like the bus system, the gay bash, faggot, you name it. When I try to approach a bus driver or one of those workers, they don't care. There's not enough. Every time I ride them, there's never a police officer to go to. And the guys with the teardrops, they're all the time on there harassing elderly people, as gay people. You know, I try to step in, but I'm only one particular person. When I talk to Andy, which lives next door, which is Mecklenburg Cop, he's always telling me, please go tell somebody. Who do I tell besides Andy? When I called the 911 operator, she told me on hold. There's not enough police force at the train station. There's not enough people. And when I did see one particular cop, he was just outsourcing of a cop. So what can you do to help people that are in that type of situation? There is no cops there that I've seen.
Well, you're talking about the transit station?
Yeah, the transit station.
The transit station.
And on the trains itself.
The transit station we used to have a nucleus of about 12 officers that were assigned to the CAT system. Budget crunch, and other issues. CATS made the decision that they were going to go to a private security type of strategy, and those officers came back with it. But I tell people that the way that we see things, the way that we focus on things, is based on what's on our radar. And if it comes up on our radar, we're going to look at it. So if it's happening, you have to report it. And if it's something that's happening immediately, then you call 911 so a response can come out. But if it's a concern about what's going on at the transit station and things like that, you need to bring that to our attention so that we can communicate that to the private security there, and that we can also pay special attention to certain areas. Because once we see enough dots in a certain place, based on different issues, that's where we're going to put our
So
research.
some of the elderly people that are also gay or just elderly people are a little scared to say anything. They even come to me and say, man, we're scared, we don't know what to do.
In life in general, we can't be afraid. And I know sometimes it's hard, and okay, Chief, you say that, but you walk around with a 9mm on your hip every day, so you may be able to say that you shouldn't be fearful or concerned. but know that fear and intimidation, when we sit back and we look at, how people conduct themselves, they conduct themselves based on believing that somebody's going to hold them accountable. If they see an area or they see a situation where they don't think people are paying attention or going to say anything about their activities, they're going to operate. I ask people, how does a drug dealer, if you told a drug dealer they could go into Valentine and with 100 pounds of weed, could they sell it? Could they stand on the street corner and sell it? No. But are there other certain areas within the city that they could go into and sell it all day? Yeah. You ask yourself why? How can that happen? Well, in one neighborhood, somebody's going to be on the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, saying, you better come get these people out of my neighborhood. In the other community, people are going to come in, they're going to sidestep them, they're going to go in their house, and they're going to be able to operate. So there has to be a way that we can bring just as much attention to that neighborhood as we do to another neighborhood. We need to bring just as much attention to the transit station as we provide to trying on these traits. But it's us that has to generate that.
Chief, I'd like to talk about when we had our meeting, one of the key elements besides the main element we were talking about that day, which was Tony Alston, was the formation of a liaison between the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department and the LGBT community. I understand and agree with your philosophy that you want everything distributed out to the people on the street, the officers on the street. But until we get to that level of training, the feet on the street, understanding the issues of the LGBT community, talking to them and understanding, if I come up and say as a transgender person, I have a problem, and they don't understand it. In most cases, they don't. When we talk, we understood that. I have gone since our meeting, putting together a team, create an LGBT liaison, so it's not just me talking. We need outreach of people for that, and I'm ready to put up a website on it. I have several professional people that have agreed to take part in this. One, a business person who was a past president of the Business Guild here in Charlotte. Another, a lawyer who works extremely well in the LGBT issues. A psychologist in the area who understands and works with the LGBT community, and a person who interfaces consistently in her job in social work with the police department and sheriff's office today. We're ready on this side. How are you doing on your side?
Well, we're ready. I think that we're an open department, and sometimes it doesn't say. And I'm not overly focused on specialization. As I mentioned earlier, the more that you try to specialize within an organization, the more you separate yourself and you compartmentalize yourself, and you don't allow it to take hold throughout the organization. Because you can have certain people feel that, well, if I have a problem, if I just go to this group, and this group is the only group that's responsible for addressing my problem. That's just not fair to any community, to only have a limited group of people where you can go to. We had an issue with the mentally ill, whereby, we're locking up the mentally ill, homeless population on a regular basis. But it wasn't until we opened ourselves up and said, hey, somebody help us to understand what's going on here. And it's not just based on criminal activity, it's more so based on mental illness. Allowing us to equip ourselves with the tools and the understanding of addressing those issues has allowed us to lock up less people with mental illness problems and be able to direct them to services that are better able to assist them. That's what we have to do. And that's what we're willing to do. We don't know all the issues within your community. And I'm not going to pretend that we do. Nor am I going to say that we're not willing to understand those issues. But we need somebody that's willing to come in to help us to understand those issues. When we go out here to investigate cases, if someone doesn't tell us or help us to understand whether or not a crime that has occurred within your community is directed based on, help me, I'm still trying to run all the proper